Well, hello, everybody. I have to share season 31. We just started, and it just gets better. Not that, I guess it's high. I'm just excited about what's coming through, and it's so uplifting. And the expansion that I feel in, yo, this is contagious. This is absolutely contagious. I am thrilled for the call today. And it is so at the center of my heart, this connection that is available, and that's coming through Carol Collins today. And she'll say it's not her. And I'll argue a little bit, and I understand. But we're going to talk about the essential material, the 4 pillars of learning. And the Jeshua Collective is going to come in, and Carol's going to explain to us what that is, what that means for us, how we can be in relationship with the collective, and how that can shift your possibilities in huge ways that perhaps we haven't considered before. So instead of me getting into a long bio of Carol, I'm going to let her tell you a little bit more about who she is, what she is sharing, and we'll get deep into today's call. We're also going to open up to live Q&A, and Carol was very clear with me to let me know so that I can share that it's not Carol that's giving you answers, that's Jeshua, the Jeshua Collective that is coming through. So this is super excited. If you're interested in asking a live question, raise your hand, type your question into the chat box. Take advantage of this time. And there's going to be more opportunities to work with Carol, obviously with the special offer, which y'all are familiar with. We'll get into that a little bit later. But let's dive in, Carol. Welcome to the call. And I'm so excited that you're finally on BTO.
Hi, thank you. Me too. This is fun.
So tell the audience how all this came to be through you and what you're receiving and what it is that you share now.
Well, I say there's nothing that comes out of a relationship falling apart except for this. You know, I was just one of those people that had roller coaster relationships, and then I had one too many, and I exited the relationship. I left the state, I packed up, I moved, and I just said, this has to be done, and it has to be over, and I need to heal, and then life needs to move on, and I need to figure out what that looks like. And so I moved. And I found myself in a bit of isolation. I tried for about a year to understand what was going on. You know, my thoughts kept going to the past, but I'm trying to stay on target with the future and trying to figure out how to wake up and put a smile on my face and make it genuine. And that was rather difficult. And so I found a program on Facebook that just gave me a little bit about emotional balance. And, you know, when relationships do this, you try to figure out where to go and what to do and how to be a happier person when it's in the dip. So I always beeline to emotional intelligence, emotional imbalance. And so that's what I did. And I joined a program, and I was more of a voyeur. I would do the exercises, and it was a self-care toolkit kind of private group. And there was a lot of posts, you know, healing posts and what people were going through. And I mostly just thumbed through, and I read what other people were going through and tried to absorb, but I didn't comment, and I really didn't post a lot. I just wanted to keep myself together. Until one day I was flipping through kind of quickly, and then before I knew it, my hand pressed the button, and it was a video. And it was a video that I had never seen before. And it was Esther Hicks having Abraham speak through her at a workshop. And when that happened, like the air went still in the room that I was in. The front of my chest got warm, and I just was hooked. I was hooked. And then I, got out of Facebook and I looked up YouTube, and I'm like, who is this? Who is this? What is this? Why is this woman calling herself Abraham? I don't know what's going on here. I had never heard of channeling, didn't know what that was. I had never heard of Jane Roberts or Edgar Cayce. I had only heard of, people and people going through things and people helping people. And so that's what I was trying to do, be a person that was helping myself using people. And so that's how I found Abraham. And then I just did what Abraham said, meditate every day. And one of the ways that Abraham said that was, you don't have time to not do it. And that sunk in. And, I can remember a couple of times I'm headed out the door and I didn't meditate and I'm late for a meeting. I closed the door, I sat back down, and I just sat there and closed my eyes, and I just listened to the air conditioning, the way that Abraham described it. About 4 months into meditation, my face started to move. And it was just a little bit, and then it started to move a lot. And there was only, me and my face moving, and then it would stop. And then my alarm would go off. My face would stop, and then my alarm would go off. I would set the alarm for 15 minutes. And then the swirling got bigger and random. And then one day I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, this is fun. Number one, it's fun. I don't know what this is, but this is some kind of connection. I know it's some kind of a connection. And then a thought came to mind. And that thought stuck with me every single day. And it came right after meditation. Is this the way my body interprets energy, or is it communication I'm not yet translating? I don't understand why that sentence came through, or I didn't at the time, but it was like clockwork. Right after meditation, my face would stop, my alarm would go off, and I would hear this voice in my head. 9 months into meditation, my face stopped, alarm went off. I reached over and touched the stop button, and then my face moved to the left, moved to the right, moved to the left, moved to the right, did that 3 times, and then started writing words in cursive in the air. And they wrote who they were, what they were here for, that they were here to help me. And they were a guardian of me, a guide team for me. They wrote a chapter of a book on law of attraction. And then they just answered all kinds of personal questions for me. So it was two-way dialogue. I spoke out loud, or I spoke in my mind to them, and my face just spelled cursive words from left to right for about an hour. And then I was writing, my eyes were open and I'm awake and I'm writing whatever my face is doing. They'd pause, I'd write it down, they'd keep going and then pause, and then I'd write it down, and I have all that still. It's fun. And then it was about a month and a half later, I'm sitting on the couch and they said, Carol, can we speak out loud? And I said, yes. And they said, just say your name, just say something. And I went to say my name, and then words just came pouring out. I had no awareness of what was going to be said first. I didn't hear it first. And so I've been a alpha state trance channeled person ever since. And I couldn't be happier. Life is great. I love my life. I love Yeshua. I love their teachings. The essential material is phenomenal. But we'll get into all that, I'm sure.
Yeah, we'll get into it. Well, first, what's an alpha state channel?
Okay. So the spiritual community or the metaphysical community calls it trance channeling. And it is trance state, but some people get really weirded out by the word trance. And it does sound kind of weird. It's like, what does that mean? Is it like you're in some weird state of the mind? And it's not really, not at all. There are levels of awareness, is the way Yeshua describes it. And it's simply, your normal awake state is beta. There's a lot of scientific research on this and, brainwave activity. So your regular awareness state is beta. And then when you slow down your awareness, slow down your breathing, the rhythm of the body, you move into alpha, you move into theta, and then there's other layers beyond that. So when they talk about, the iconic channelers, they always go back to Edgar Cayce, Edgar, the sleeping prophet. He laid down and was out, and he had no awareness of what was being said. He had someone there to ask the questions, and then the words would come forward. And he didn't know that it was a non-physical teacher that was speaking through him. He thought there was some kind of repressed intelligence that was coming forward in that deep sleeping state. It was, in fact, non-physical teachers that were speaking out loud through him. Jane Roberts, she was very low alpha, didn't remember what the words were, could not hear it as it was being spoken. And some channelers today are the same way. They close their eyes and they go very deep, and then they say, how did I do? What did they say? And so that's a deeper alpha. They have no awareness of what is being said unless it's being recorded. And then there's people like Esther, and there's a number of people that are in that lighter alpha range, where they can hear as the conversation is flowing. They hear it. Some can stand up and move around, some cannot. I do. although the memory of it doesn't last for all that long, couple hours. So if I'm doing readings, I've had people that, call again and again and make appointments. And they said, well, do you remember what we talked about last time? And I said, I do not, but I'm sure that your guide in Yeshua does. So let's just jump into it.
Amazing. So let's talk about the Jeshua Collective, and let's sort of, who is Jeshua according to your channeling, according to the way that you're translating it for us?
It is translation. So that's a great way to put it. They are a group of non-physical teachers. They've completed their incarnation cycle. They've completed, they don't live lives anymore. Now they're in a position of teaching, a position of guiding, a position of doing something that is of value for the lives of people who are currently here in the physical world. So they like to say, we're the same as you. You got to understand, as soon as your grandparents pass, as soon as their life has completed, I have a hard time saying the word die, because you don't. You just move from phase 1 to phase 2. And so that's just easier for me to say, phase 1, phase 2. So say your grandparents, phase 1 ends and they move to phase 2. So their physical life is over. Phase 2, they come back into the entity being. And so now they're a part of this whole community of lives, but they're also their individual life. So Yeshua says we're a community of lives, but we're several communities of lives. And that's why they say there's a number of teachers that come through. And when they are dictating a book or giving a reading or teaching a class or doing a workshop, there's several of them that come together. They create the material that's going to be said, and then one of them flows the communication from the non-physical place to the physical place, and then it's picked up by my mind, and then it's said out loud. And I say, well, how does that work? And they say, well, we're going to teach the world how it works, so that the world doesn't look at trance channeling as being possessed. I've had people say, well, doesn't your conscious leave your body, or don't you leave your body and go into an NDE state, and then you've got to come back into your body, and if you don't come into your body correctly, then don't you have time gaps in your memory? I'm like, no, none of that happens. And Yeshua describes why all of that is they do fact from fiction, myth and fact checking is what they do. And it cleans up and clears up a lot of the misconception of what channeling is. The one way that they describe it is it's simply this: clairvoyant activity is step 2. Step 1 is intuition. It's a nonverbal conversation, and we just do something. You don't know why you go here today, or why you had this conversation with someone, this impromptu thing that you just said. Sometimes that's intuition. Most of the time, it's law of attraction that's causing us to say and do and go places. But sometimes it's intuition. When intuition gets stronger and when the awakening happens, then clairvoyant activity occurs. And clairvoyant activity is always in the mind's eye. They say it's a process of learning to trust where the information is coming from. And when the inner mind trusts where the information is coming from, then they simply ask the mind to say the information instead of present it in the mind. And that just makes sense to me, And they say, think before you speak. The world, it's a phrase that every culture on the planet knows. Think before you speak. Why did you just say that? Why didn't you think first? And so the natural tendency is to think before you say. And so that's the way abilities show up as well. You think them, they're brought to the mind's eye. You see images, you see words, you think or you hear thoughts, and then it progresses to saying the words and saying them out loud and bypassing the need to have it presented in the mind's eye. That's a channeler. Channeled state, that's a channeler.
Well, and you're teaching people how to get to that space. It's not removed, and it's not subject to only a certain group of people. But, and again, as you point out, that there's non-physical teachers that are really teaching us now, and there are channelers that are acting as conduits for the information. And then the years of doing this show, the channelers that are coming out of the woodwork, the people with the ability to tune in, has grown exponentially. It's like, what's happening with that growth, with that proliferation of people who are attuning and being able to translate again? And why is this happening so profoundly right now?
Yeah. Well, the channeling is a word that a lot of people use, and sometimes they use it for clairvoyant activity. So channeling, the way Yeshua describes it, it is a progression or advancement from traditional mediumship and traditional clairvoyance. So it's when the voices are still in the mind and you can still see the images, but the words are spoken out loud without having the conversation presented here first. And they describe, the world needs softening. There's violence. There's just a lot of no time to get things done. It's overworked, over processing, overdoing, overthinking, overly emotional. It's just everything is overdone. And when everything is overdone, then you no longer have time to just sit and relax and meditate in the way that people used to before. It wasn't sit and close your eyes and make time to have no thought. Life was slower paced, and so people were healthier. And now life is fast paced, fast paced. And the bodies are not as healthy. Well, the two things go together. Yeshua describes why. And they talk about the grid, which is in the non-physical part of you. It's in the energy field. And they talk about when doctors talk about stress, they're talking about the grid, meaning the non-physical part of you, the subconscious mind, as having too much negative emotion held within. When you're holding on to negative emotion and negative memories, repressed memories included, that's all internalized, and internalized stress comes out in all kinds of ways. And those ways are never healthy. So they talk about what self-healing is and who does it and how it works and how you can aid the process and how that aids your awakening. And the awakening is also described as a process. I love what they do, because they take this whole concept of awakening and this concept of, somehow we connect and somehow there's translation, but we don't really know how it works. They break it all down into the nuts and bolts and they describe how it works. And they do the teaching of the classes. So the unfoldment class is training people to awaken all the way to become traditional medium, and then beyond if they're interested in going further into a full and open channeled person. And it's fun watching people just progress, sometimes leaps and bounds and sometimes a little at a time. But they talk about self-validation, and that the mind, there is a translation that happens, and part of the subconscious mind does translation, but it does it badly in the beginning. And so you might have a received thought that says, we love you so much, today is Thursday and let's have pizza for dinner. And you don't know how much of that was truly accurate. It might have been the whole thing. It might have been none of it. It might have just been the word pizza, because you just don't know where you are in the translation process. So they teach you all kinds of activities to do to show yourself, prove to yourself where you are in the continuum of accuracy.
Mm-hmm.
Why are they doing it? Because the world is too violent. The world is too violent. There's a wave of help, I guess you could call it. There's a desire now for people to understand what conscious thought is and what human thought is. And there's a desire to connect, and there's less fear about connecting with people after they've passed. And so the time is right for people to learn not only that you can connect and that it's healthy and healing, but that we're supposed to be able to connect. You have a guide, and that guide is so much wanting to talk to you verbally, but they can't until you learn to meditate quietly. And then they teach the subconscious mind, and then you learn it.
So and I love the way that you're explaining this, and I love that your work provides a structure for it. It's the mapping is there, and that makes so much sense to me, because it's not just random. There's such an intelligence that runs this. It's just we haven't perceived it in the way that it's built, or at least perhaps few have perceived it that way, but it has been translated for us to understand it in a way that we can receive it. So break down what you see. Again, you talked about the grid. Give us more specifics, like a little more nitty-gritty about the grid and how the grid is part of the way that we create.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So this is one of my favorite subjects. This falls into pillar one. Pillar one is the foundational material, what conscious life is all about. That means non-physical life. Pillar two is law of attraction, idea reconstruction. Pillar three is self-healing, and pillar four is unfoldment, bringing out your intuitive abilities. So the grid, Yeshua talks about the energy field, and the energy field is a non-physical structure, and that non-physical structure is what transitions in and transitions out. So from the non-physical place, there is, let's just use you have a higher being, and that higher being created an energy field. And in the energy field, they put a chakra system, and they put intelligence, and they put a grid structure, and they put abilities. And when your higher being, decided that they wanted to become a person and have physical life and do that thing again, then they identified the time and the place and the where and the when, and then they brought that non-physical structure and integrated it with your infant body. And that's what creates sustained life outside of the mother, sustained life. And so this energy field contains a grid. And the way that they describe a grid is it looks like graph paper, and that it is an overlay of the shape of the body, and there's many layers to it. In each physical life, there's 3 layers, grid 1, 2, and 3, and each layer has abilities that are inherent within it. Grid 1 collects data and then categorizes it, labels it, puts it in the grid, and keeps track of quantity. Layer 2 is the translator. Layer 3 is the part of the subconscious mind, the grid layer, that presents information to you. So the way they describe it, it's so easy if you can conceptualize it. It's everything is like a container. Every subject is a different container. And just picture it like a penny jar. And so you've got 10 different subjects, 10 different things that you're learning or that you've witnessed. And each of those subjects had a penny dropped in the jar. You see it once, a penny goes in. You see it twice, 2 pennies, 3 pennies, 4 pennies. And so the jar fills up. So that's filling up on the inside. That's internalized thought, can be internalized stress, depending on what you're experiencing. And when that internalized thought reaches maximum capacity, then it flows into physical life. And that's how you have what you have. Thoughts create your reality, but thoughts have to accumulate to a certain amount, and then it rolls over into physical life. And then the part of the grid that presents information to you, and it is presenting it, this is what we have the most of. And what is that? Well, everything that you have and think about and watch, and what your interests are, where your emotions are, and what you believe yourself to be, and what you believe in the world, and all your belief systems are built inside the grid based on quantity. But quantity does one other thing. It also affects your emotions and your emotional state. So in the grid, it looks like graph paper is the way they describe it, only that graph paper is hollow tubes, and each sector of the grid, each sector of each square is labeled a subject, and then all of your memories go into that sector, but all of the emotional memories go in there too. So someone that is under a lot of stress has a lot of negative emotion that's active, and that is affecting physical life. So energy, self-healing, and using energy, non-physical energy from your guide. I say coach, my non-physical coach or my non-physical teachers, because that just makes it feel less strange, less weird, less, it's more down to earth when I just say, they are my coach. They're my life coach. They are my life teacher. And I appreciate that they have so much to teach people. So the grid itself is container that holds life experience, all of your experiences, everything you've ever seen, watched, heard, listened to, focused on, read, said, participated in, looked at, all of it is life experience in the grid. All life experiences in the grid. And when each of those sectors reach maximum capacity, then it flows over into life experience, and then you have it. So you could say, I want to have a happy relationship. But if all of your thoughts are, I don't have a relationship, or I don't have a good relationship, then you hold yourself apart from manifesting that. So what do you need to do? You need to soothe the emotional part, because you want to have the relationship, the subject intact, but you want to change the negative emotion from I don't have it or I don't have a good one to I love my relationship. I love the idea of a great relationship, and I love that it is mine, and I love that it's out there for me, and I love that my guide is bringing it to me. And when you change the emotional association to that subject, then it begins to create accumulation. When that accumulation has reached capacity of being produced in life, then it becomes in your life. And there's so many people that are wanting to know how to manifest things or manifest health and wellness, and its capacity to do it is there. The ability to do it is there. It's what they call a quantity-based reality. It's all quantity in the grid. So what do you have in the grid? Take a look at your life. That's what's in the grid. Do you like it? Do more of it and love on it. If you don't like it, then flip the emotion. As many emotions that need to be flipped on as many topics that need to be flipped. Just be happy, in other words, and talk about your life in positive ways, and then watch what happens. So the grid is a container. Life, it holds all life experience.
Well, you summed up the full definition, I believe, in your description of what they're trying to translate as the law of attraction through books, through different programs and all that. And a lot of us have heard about the law of attractions. And again, blessings to Esther. She does it in such a beautiful way for people who really follow her. But these other ways and then interpreting about getting things as opposed to, again, the accumulation of the energy that you really want to bring into your life and what that brings in, it really grounds it in and makes it applicable. It makes it accessible. What would you tell people who are saying, but I'm doing this, but I keep trying to flip my limiting beliefs. I've been working on this for 30 years, but my circumstances aren't changing. My health is deteriorated. I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, but I'm still suffering.
Oh, that's accumulation in the grid that they don't realize or recognize. You can grow up in a household that has teasing and, loving parents, loving siblings, but there's a lot of teasing going on. And so that's just normal. That's normal upbringing. And that teasing to one sibling might be no big deal. It doesn't have a negative emotion associated to it. It's just life experience. So life experience plus neutral. Life experience plus neutral means I have happy, healthy relationships with people. But if a different sibling takes that teasing and negative emotion gets associated to it, and that's what free will is. So when negative emotion gets associated to it, then that other sibling winds up having relationships that don't work. And then you've got two people in the same family that experience very similar things, but their lives are different. Why? And so many people rack their brains to say, but I don't understand why I'm so much different. And if it is different, then it's simply a different accumulation in the grid. So there's so many techniques that Yeshua brings forward, things like grab your favorite dictionary and grab a thesaurus. And then there's some wordplay that does word association that comes up from the depths of the grid to help you identify which emotions you're really carrying that are burdensome. So there's a lot of techniques. Or you could just say, am I happy? Am I sad? Am I frustrated? Am I annoyed? Am I angry? Am I jealous? Do I feel worried? Do I feel guilty a lot? Am I looking backwards or am I looking forwards? And if you're looking backwards, then it's definitely worry, might be guilt. It's probably annoyance, it's probably sad, but it doesn't really matter. We're carrying all of it. So in the moment that something happens, let's say you're at a red light, and for some reason, the first red light, you're fine. The second red light, you're fine. The third red light, well, now you're frustrated. Well, that's the same thing that happens in the grid. You don't know what the accumulation is because you don't feel it on the outside. You don't feel it. 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 All of a sudden you feel it. And then you have frustration. So when people are trying to manifest and they say, but I just can't see any evidence of it. Well, sometimes it's too much accumulation for what they're going for. So pull it back a little bit. You know, if you're going for a new job, then maybe what you need to do is be happy with employment. And when you're happy with employment, then it creates quantity in the grid. And then all of a sudden you have a happier thought, and that happier thought attracts a new job. So there's no cut and dry because everybody's life experience is different. And because it's different, the quantities that are in the grid are different. I just find it's logic meets spiritual things, which equals I feel good because I feel like I know something, and I feel like I know enough to put something in action. For me, I'm a visual person, so the logic and the storytelling that they use, it's like a light bulb goes on. So very, very briefly, when they talk about grid 1, 2, and 3, it's 1 and 3 is law of attraction, the data collector and life producer. What you see, what you do, what you hear, what you think, what you watch, what you participate in, when it accumulates to a certain amount, then that's what you get in life, positive or negative. So it's grid 1 and 3, 1 and 3. That is law of attraction. Some people think law of attraction is in the air, or that it's a law, or that it is the your guide team, and you get what you get, and there's nothing you can do about it. There's a lot of things you can do about it. Now, grid 2, they say that one is dormant, and it's the translator, and it does need silent meditation for the awakening to happen, all the way up to full and open channeled person. So, intuition, everybody's like this. Intuition, there's a little bit of awakening. Clairvoyance, there's more awakening. And that can be where people stop. A lot of people just stop there. Now, a channeled person, it's aspect 2 or grid 2 awakens all the way, and then translation is good. So as those dormant abilities are awakening, it's like a sleepy little kid that doesn't want to get out of bed. I don't want to get out of bed. I don't want to do that job. I'll do it a little bit, but I don't want to do it a lot. And then as it wakes up, and then it's fully functioning ability. It's a series of abilities, and it's a series of containers. And there's a series of things that have to happen for you to manifest life. And all life experience, we do carry it with us, and we do use it. And a lot of it's not useful. There's no reason for backaches except for too much aggravation, the emotion of aggravation. Too much aggravation causes lower back pain. So, I'm someone that really does not enjoy roller coasters. They just scare the heck out of me. And so I found standing in line in amusement parks, I was really in terrible pain in my lower back, and I'd bend over and stretch my back, and, I would just kind of shift my weight back and forth. And it took several conversations with Yeshua for them to describe that there's worry, there's fear, there's I don't want to, which is a phrase, an emotional phrase. And when those 3 things combined, it led to aggravation, which led to the backache. So reduce any of those and the backache will subside. And I said, oh, but that does make sense. It makes sense because it's labeling stress by the emotional word or the emotional phrase. And when you have a lot of it, it shows up into your physical life as a thought, as behavior, and as a physical problem. And so how do you get rid of a backache? Get rid of aggravation. Get rid of aggravation. And then worry, and then fear, and then I don't want to. And then everything just magically heals. It is like magic. I love them so much.
Oh my God, it's so amazing. I'd love to drop into some Q&A with the audience. We can talk all day. You're sharing so much, but I want people to experience the channel also.
Yeah.
What's coming.
So you choose the question and Yeshua will jump in.
We'll jump in. I'm gonna unmute or promote some people, panelists here, so we can they can ask their question live. So this is gonna be great.
Oh, cool.
So if you guys want to ask your personal questions, raise your hand or type your question into the chat box, and we'll get to this. Why would someone want to channel? Again, we see people like you coming on, getting amazing gifts of being able to come in and translate and give information. Why would we want to choose to channel? Is it because I channel, does this mean that I'm going to show up like you and share like this, and this is the way it's going to be, and we're going to be on Zoom calls, and I'm bound or guided to show up in this capacity? Or how else can it translate in our lives?
Oh gosh, there's so many different things I could say, but everybody has a guide, and that guide knows what your soul intentions were, pre-birth intentions. They know why you came into physical life, and they've been here the entire time. They brought you in and they're going to take you out, and they've been here every step. They are guiding you using intuition, but intuition is silent, but intuition is in competition with law of attraction. So you get what you get, and some of it is guidance and a lot of it is not. Now, I say, why would you want to be a channel? Well, why would you not? Why? I think clairvoyant abilities are amazing. And I think there's so many amazing mediums in the world. But, when Yeshua describes the subconscious mind is the grid structure. And when they say, grid 1 and grid 3, that's law of attraction, the data collector and the data producer. And that the second layer is the translator, but it's dormant. So when you think about dormant and waking up, why would you want to stop here? When you've got beautiful verbal conversation that could be all the way to here, which is back and forth of everything, back and forth of anything and everything. And so I just say, you could stop in the middle if you wanted to, but life just gets so fun when they just say, hey, don't go to the store today. Or don't go to the store today, go tomorrow.
Yeah.
And if you can, get there between 2 and 3 o'clock. You go there between 2 and 3 o'clock, and then your best friend is there. Or all of a sudden there's nobody there and you're first in line, and then you get in and out. They give personal guidance that's amazing, but they also give structured guidance. Anybody's guide does. Yeshua, well, let me back up. A channeled person is someone that receives verbal conversation that is presented out loud. When it's presented out loud, translation is good. It's very, very good. It also doesn't have the stopgap of in the mind. So when the conveyance of information goes through the mind's eye first, there's always some amount of contamination. There's always, because you've got human thought and you've got guide provided thought, and they get commingled, and then you receive what you receive, and you don't know how much of it is contaminated, but it is by a little or a lot, you don't know. Channeled information in the early stages, same thing, but in the later stages, it's good. And then you get guidance. Now, if you get really good, if you reach what they call a professional level, then your guide will bring in other teachers, and they will identify which of the 4 pillars they want to teach through you. And then they will generally write a book, and then maybe other things as well. So, the thing about channeled people who have teachers teaching a subject, if you look at what is being taught, it always can be categorized as 1 or more of the 4 pillars. It's the information that they teach. So it's just fun. And I love pillar 1, the foundational material. And I ask all kinds of questions about astral projection and what the transition is like, and what's the process, and how do you decide who your parents are going to be, and how do you do this and how do you do that, and what's the real thing about the chakra system. I just sit and have conversations every day. I get taught every day. I just get talking. Why do you want to be a channeled person? Maybe you don't. Maybe you just want to know who a channeled person is. And I've got a couple of friends, I think they're probably on tonight. They just love having a channeled friend, and they pop over and they just say, hey, can I ask a question? Can I just talk to, so-and-so? I've got, another friend who just says, can I talk to my mom? It's just, situations just happen, and the information comes through verbal, and it's explanations. It's not a picture book. And so, you take it as far as you want to take it, but I wouldn't want to go backwards. That's for sure.
I get what you're saying completely. Oh my God, this is amazing. Yeah, we're going to get into a special offer in a little bit, because the opportunity to go deeper with Carol and what's being taught here, and really to empower you in dramatic ways, I have to say. This is being presented in the special offer. April, put the link for the special offer in the chat box now. We're going to get to it in a little bit. But I want to go into Q&A first with some people. We'll flow in and out. You all know how we do this. But Peg, let's start with you. Let's get you to unmute. And what is your question for Yeshua?
Hi there. Thank you, John, for calling on me. I appreciate this very much. Hi, Carol. I've never met you before, so this is a great experience. And I really connected with a lot of what you said. Yeshua is definitely in my life a lot. I had a question before we even came online, but I've changed the verbiage just a little bit after listening to you. I have a long history of working with myself on these, energetic levels, we'll call it. Just the past 3 years, I've felt a lot better about my life, a lot better. And then all of a sudden, recently, I'm starting to say to myself, why am I not manifesting, or why are some of the results of what I've been working towards not coming to fruition? So is that a clear enough question, or should I keep talking?
Guide of Peg is here. Yeshua to speak. So there's a lot of different things. So we're going to say this, we're going to look off to the right, because at this moment, your mind is listening. And so it's a technique that we use, the inner mind. We're talking about aspect 1, grid 1 is listening. Your guide is capturing the attention of your subconscious mind, in other words. And so we're looking off to the right. When we do that, the mind says, the presenter is not looking in the camera, so I guess I'm not going to pay attention to the presenter. And then on the inside, it's listening to your guide. You're going to find that you manifest things a little bit easier after tonight. But what you're trying to manifest is a little bit like a little of this and a little of that. And you don't have a clear-cut description of what you are wanting life to be like. And so there's a little bit too much. And when we talk about the containerized thoughts and the emotional phrases, you've got a little bit of, I'm not sure. You also have, I don't know if, and you also have, and we say it's not even a pure thought. It's just which is delay in general, fear of delay, not fear of future, but fear of delay, which couples with, I don't know. And what if I don't? And so you get a little bit of the magnificent thing is there is evidence of what you're wanting, but how do you get evidence to stop being evidence that it's coming and evidence that you have it?
Right.
That's subject by subject by subject. You have lack of noticing evidence, and that's causing, I don't see it. It's an internalized, oh no, prior to a significant amount of accumulation to give you a thought. So accumulation gives you might breathe differently. You might scrunch your eyebrows more often. You might have hand gestures that, do something like this a little bit more often. You might have just a tendency to look down, and you do. So there's a lot of behavioral things that are going on that are identified as, I know that it's not coming. Your thoughts are pretty good, but there's too much awareness that you don't have it. How do you bring awareness away from not having it? That's a hard one. It is a hard one, but there is a solution to it. Number one, energy work. So what is energy work? Silent meditation. There's all kinds of meditation. And what they all do is it brings you a happy experience. If it's guided meditation or mantras or sound bath meditation, they bring you a happy experience. That brings an experience into the grid and also an accumulation of happy. That's good, but that's not meditation. Meditation is silence. And there's really no way to get around that. You need more meditation. Now, we would say alpha banding or theta banding. Your mind is willing to go to theta, but it needs to be guided there. So we say alpha banding. It is similar to hypnosis, but we don't like that word because the mind of most people is afraid of hypnosis. So alpha banding. Alpha banding is still silent meditation for a longer period of time. And then your guide can get in there and soothe the emotional phrases that are causing disruption in what you're trying to manifest. So you have a need for energy work. Otherwise, right now, we don't see you manifesting in full what you're going for. So unconscious beliefs are okay. Your beliefs on the topic are okay, but you have too much accumulation on the inside of, I don't think I'm going to get it. Where is it? What if I don't? But also, it's not quite concrete enough. So the inner mind, when we talk about grid 1 and what it's going to do, what it does, it goes and collects data, and it's going, I'm not really sure if I get this or this or this. What is it that you're trying to manifest? Because your guide is very clear here. The mind is a little bit, there's indecision, and I don't know what to gather specifically. What are you trying to do, my dear?
Well, this is an interesting question because I've been working on all levels for a long time. So when I wrote down what I thought I wanted, location, money, my purpose in life, my career, if you'll call it, health,
which one of those is causing you to worry about not getting it?
I would say in this moment, probably the location.
Location. Living location, we're talking living location?
Right.
Okay, well, don't worry about that one. Because there's no great need for you to move, change location. There's an internal motivation happening, but that motivation is, I think I did the wrong thing. I think I did the wrong thing. So you've got a lot of looking over your shoulder and thinking that you did the wrong thing. And so for some reason, it is showing up as not being in the right place. Where you are is just fine. So if you can put that one on the back burner and then bring in now this career thing that you're trying to do, it's something that is good and healthy, but you don't really know if you're good at it. What are you trying to do?
Right now, I don't, that's a question I don't know.
Well, you have thoughts on something specific because the mind is presenting very strongly, I don't know if I'm good at it.
Okay. I am an energy healer, so I would like to work with newborns or preemies.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. So I don't know if I'm good at it. Well, this is how human thought and grid thought come together and create delay. Human beings are not the healer. And so anyone that is in the practice or a practitioner of healing arts, we love all of you and we want more of you to be available in the world. But when the human being believes that they are a healer and they don't quite understand on the inside how the healing is being done, then the internalized thought is, but I don't know if I can do that. Because human thought cannot heal. Human thought cannot heal. Non-physical thought can heal and does heal. But there's also frequencies that come through and we can heal the chakras and we can heal the grid and we can heal the body, sending different frequencies from the dimension where we are speaking from. So now babies have an abundance of soul energy that flows all the way through the energy field and out into the room. And so it's more like, can you get elderly and babies in the same room? elderly will feel better. They'll have more cognizant awareness if they can just safely now, of course, hold a baby, because the energy just circulates between the two energy fields. So this abundant of purity meets life experience, and the two come together, and the infant or the toddler's energy, and it is age 3 or below, that energy of the toddler can, if done for long enough, consistently enough, it can be a healing effect physically, memory, and then also fingers mostly, and you give some dexterity back to the fingers. So we would say be a facilitator of bringing parents who are interested in helping the elderly and just share baby holding. It's not the act of baby holding and reminiscent joy, although that is sometimes there, but it's the act of holding and having the energy circulated right around the solar plexus. So you'd have to have some, some care, or maybe some of those nice wraps that people wear, and let elderly just hold and then sit in meditation. And the infant, if they're small enough, that's all they do is just lay and sleep. And so there's great healing that can be done. Infants that need healing, well, there's a reason that they are the way that they are. And generally, we don't think that they need healing. But if you teach a child from a very, very early age that healing is real and that it's done in silent moments, then that child will stay on their life path. And there's a lot of things that we can teach you about that. We like where you're going with it, but we would like you to focus more on the elderly. And that's one of the things in the grid. It's like, I don't know if that is needed, because the grid knows that the infant has pure energy, purity of emotional energy. And so they don't have a clogged grid yet. So on the inner mind is saying, I don't know if that's the right thing for me to do. So we would say, focus your energy on the elderly, not the infants. But if you can bring them together, it can be an amazing healing opportunity for so many of the people in those upper ages.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do know what you're saying, because I used to be a pet sitter and I did that with the animals.
Right. Yeah. It's different with animals. That's just joy. But there is a literal clean frequency that comes through small infants and toddlers, and that healing frequency goes out of the solar plexus, out of their energy field, and right into the room. So if it goes right out of their energy field and into the room, but into the room is right into the solar plexus of another person, amazing healing can take place in the other person. So if you focus on that, watch how things start manifesting faster for you. Put moving on the back burner, though. Health is okay for now. You don't have anything terrible coming along. You just need a little bit of restorative yoga and stretch out the upper neck and the lower back, and just do a little bit of that. Do it in the chair to begin with. But there's a lot of ways that you can do that, and it'll stretch out the ligaments, the ligaments, and then the tendons, and then the muscles, and then the bones can fit into place the way they should. And then you'll feel a little less creaky, you'll feel a little less old, and then you'll feel healthier. When you feel healthier, you get healthier, because it's all about accumulation.
Right. So then
Thank you for calling in. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I want to go, and we still need to go through the special offer, which I think you would benefit tremendously from, by the way. And I want to go into that for everybody, not to cut you short. There's a lot coming through, and everybody, maybe not the specifics of working with children and elderly, but the energy that's coming through, and the why, and the belief systems, and the accumulation. It's so vital. It's so important, y'all. So what a powerful call. And Peg, thank you so much for asking your question, because it brought up so much for our particular circumstances. But again, in that particular pillar, because the pillars all seem to be, we're functioning from one of a short stack of pillars or columns of pillars. So it's fascinating to me. Anyway, thank you, Peg. I'm going to get to some more Q&A also, y'all, but I want to get into a special offer, because this is really providing a foundation and a structure and a way in which we can really embody what Carol is sharing here, and Jeshua through the collective also, and use these facilitations, these tools that we have access to really create a point of manifestations that we're looking for, and get out of the loops that we keep circling and trying to figure it out and pull it out from the sky and understand really what we are capable of, what you are capable of. So April, I hope you put the link to the special offer in the chat box again. If not, I know you will, like in 2 seconds. Or y'all click open the chat box, click on the special offer link. It's highlighted in blue. If you can't find it, just type in beyondtheordinaryshow.com/Carol31 and it'll take you to the same page. And Carol or Jeshua, I'm not sure who's going to take us through this, but please take us through the special offer that everybody's going to receive.
So there's a couple of things. This is Jeshua to speak. So when Carol first had the conversation with John, she said, well, what do you guys want to do with the package? And we love that. We love when people look to us, and that's fun. And so we said, well, if we get to design it, we'd like to teach a little bit. And so there's 2 mini courses. They're both about 90 minutes apiece. One teaches you all about what the grid is, and the other teaches you why you need to know about it and what it does. So the grid plus law of attraction. So there's 2 different courses there, but they're about 90 minutes apiece. Once a month, we have a 2-hour live Q&A event. It's on a Thursday evening. And your questions guide the entire discussion. We like those. We answer any topic that is on your mind. We know that sometimes there's a lot of people in the room, and it seems like I didn't get my question asked out loud, but you always get the archive of all of them, and you always get to re-listen to the broadcast, and you always get to go back, and you'll find that even if you did not ask a question, your question was answered. So it's a one-to-many. So do consider that. Then you also have a wonderful opportunity to read one of our books, and that book will be Ocularity of the Mind. If you already own Ocularity of the Mind, then when you ask for the book, please identify that you have it, and Carol will send you the second book. If you have the second, we'll send you the third. If you have the third, then we'll put you on the waiting list for the next book that's published. So there are a lot of you that already have the first book, but it's a nice thing to give and to share. Know that when you do read the book, there is energy weaved into it, and it does help you awaken. Read it rather quickly. Don't analyze it. Read it rather quickly. If you move to the second book, read it a little slower. If you get to the third book, read it very, very slow. But the package itself is two mini courses, and it's a live virtual event with us. And there's a book that you get to hold it.
Thank you. And again, the items of mini courses: self-healing, how to unlock your true potential. And y'all are going to want to read through the description. I feel it as I'm reading it, what's coming in, and it's exciting my senses as to what's here. I feel like I'm being taken into an even understanding of the expansion that's happening. And from that understanding, what I can create is entirely different than just being in the expansion. And I'm aware of that. So there's something that's very grounding for me in it that I feel is taking my capacities into another phase of creation. And why that is so alive for me right now, because I know the joy that creation brings for me, the experience that I get to be as a co-creator or sovereign creator, if I choose, and how we're doing this. Of course, we're creating with the collective, and with that, we're accessing and understanding that we are on a similar vibrational level as we choose to be, and we remember and we heal these parts of ourselves on par with those that we would call our angels or guides in different ways. But really, we're unraveling those things that told us that we weren't, and we're switching on those things that truly are. So again, this is profound. This is profound information that I hope you all take advantage of. The grid, the missing component of manifestation. Carol's talked about it. So important for the structure, for the ownership, for letting the mind relax instead of searching for things that are so outside of us that the mind can go, oh, now I get it. And to start creating from that, it's so potent. And then the live access, the 2-hour live virtual event also in the book, and the transmissions in her. It's powerful work, y'all. I'm excited that y'all have the opportunity to participate and to do it at just an amazing offer price is fantastic. So it's $147. It's a 2-payment option. By now, you'll receive the downloads. You'll have access to one of the live calls. There's one on June 15th and another one on July 13th. So if you can't make one, you can make the other. And again, amazing harmonics of attunement that we get access to. So again, I hope y'all take advantage of it. And with that, Jeshua or Carol, can we take some more Q&A?
We're here as long as you are.
All right, fantastic. So someone wrote in, and I want to pop it up. And it's just someone that says how new they are. And Jade wrote this. Jade, thank you so much for writing it. Jade writes, I'm a newbie in Jeshua's unfoldment to channeling class and highly recommend it to everyone. So much insight comes through every single week. So again, the access to center, and a lot of y'all are smiling that are on camera. I think y'all are smiling because you're probably in the program and you're aware. So that makes sense to me. So that's wonderful. And as I'm taking the next caller, I'm going to unmute you in a second. I want to, Yeshua, there's a component in our communities, and I've struggled with this at times also, because there's a way that we speak in this community. We use a vernacular and energy of grammar, if you will, to explain things. And it's always been, oh, well, if I can describe it in a way that's more accessible for other people, then we'd reach more people. There'd be a bigger audience. There'd be more of this information that would be accessible, if you will. Or for someone in community here, well, I speak in a particular way, and if I speak this in my community, I'm not accepted. People don't understand. I feel like an outsider. It's like I don't have community. How important is it to bridge the words and to make it more accessible? Or how important is it to keep it at what's true for us as we're awakening it and invite people up to it? Or is there a distinction?
Well, we love the question. We're going to expand it a little bit. This is Yeshua. We like to say that this is Yeshua to speak, because we just flow right out loud that quickly. So here's the fun thing: phraseology. What are the phrases that you use? What are the phrases that you believe are okay? And do you promote them? And is it a good idea to promote them? So one person's phrase, adored, another person hears that phrase and it's misunderstood. And when it's misunderstood, then I don't understand accumulates in the grid. So we say, describe it, but leave it open-ended. And that's what's going wrong in the metaphysical community. This is how it works. This is how it works. We say, listen to a non-physical teacher, because we'll tell you how it works. And when we tell you how it works, we like you to ask creative questions, because when you ask a question, we give you enough answer for the unconscious part of you to understand. And so some of it is in the beginning superficial. It's meant to be superficial so that it gets drawn into the grid. Now, the grid is your intelligence. It is your non-physical intelligence. It knows what it is. So when we say the subconscious mind, it knows that's accurate. If someone says, I am my higher self, and my higher self is speaking through me in magical ways, the grid says, that's not happening. I'm not my higher self. But it can't speak to you in those words. It just says wrong, or incorrect, or that's not right. And those are accumulations in themselves. So we like to say as many different varieties. We say clairvoyance, we say ocularity, we say intuition rising, we say abilities, we say however many phrases that we can. Now, when we talk, the grid listens, but we're going to explain why. And this is our answer to your question of why do you want to be a channeled person? But herein lies human experience. This did not come to Carol's mind, although now her mind is recognizing it and saying, oh, that's a better answer. And so our answer is simply this: when you have full and open, channeled person. So as Carol described, aspect 2 is the translator within. It is dormant. It is not asleep, it's dormant. And we say dormant on purpose because the inner mind doesn't ever fall asleep. It's just dormant. When it starts to wake up, this is ocularity. There's a blossoming, and there's so many different things that happen. But when it opens all the way, when it awakens all the way, then we get to do one thing. Aside from speaking out loud, we present energy in a way, in a deeper, concentrated way that gets pushed out the solar plexus. So when it gets pushed out the solar plexus, it goes into the room. So when you have a full and open channeled person that does these kind of interviews, and you have the rebroadcast, and so we're going to put a plug in for the rebroadcast as well. In this conversation, there is a frequency of Yeshua, pure, non-physical energy going into the room that cleans up emotional weight in the grid. The rebroadcast, you'll get it again and again and again. It doesn't exhaust itself. It's fresh and new every time, every time, every time, every time, every time, every time. And so we like to say that. So any highly qualified channeled person, just play their information in the background like soft music. Just let it play and don't care about what the words are necessarily, because that frequency of that non-physical teacher will come into the room, it'll billow into the room, and then it will clean up emotional discord in the grid. So why do you want to be a channeled person? You will be healthier. You will be healthier. You will be healthier. And that's why we are creating more channeled people. So the world is healthier. And then fighting is reduced, and violence is reduced, and sad is reduced, and I just don't know where I'm going is reduced, and all kinds of things get reduced, and everything gets reduced except for things like happy and joy and peace and love. And we want more of that. So why do you want to be a channeled person? Because the frequency of your non-physical teacher gets to come into the room in a very strong way, and then it's circled back into your energy field, and it is one of the techniques of self-healing. Yeah,
Beautiful.
that's all.
Beautiful. I heard it described to me as part of the energies when Yeshua was walking, that which you call Jesus was walking here, and how people would line up just to be in his presence. And it was this energetic field that was doing the healing, not his physical touch, and they could feel it. And there was an eminence that would emanate from a pure state of his being and consciousness that was accessible. And that's why people would show up in droves to be around. They could feel something was aligning in their grid, even though they couldn't quite comprehend it, right?
So go back and listen to the actual words that you said. But it's perfect. There was conscious frequency, conscious non-physical frequency that was coming through the one known as Jesus, out of him, into the air. And it was drawing people to him because it was such a beautiful person, beautiful energy, beautiful thought, beautiful conveyance, beautiful abilities in that human being, beautiful abilities in that human being. And so there was a frequency, the same frequency. We like to say this, it is the same frequency that you are all getting now. So those that were in attendance in the gatherings of the one known as Jesus, they received the pure, non-physical energy that was being given through the dimensions into the room. And it's the same. We're all non-physical teachers, and his non-physical teacher is a different one that's speaking now, but we're all the same. Purity of thought, purity of emotion. It's pure frequency that was coming through. So what was coming through into those crowds? Well, you're the new crowd, and you are receiving that same frequency from source, from the non-physical place. And so people were, but so are you. Look how many are here today. So let's make it more, make it more, make it more, make it more, make it more. We want more and more and more full and open channeled people to have this kind of platform. So John, we say thank you to you for creating this platform. You are being guided, and we love you so much. We'll have follow-on conversations with you. And we want to have more conversations with all of you. Do we have more questions or more time for questions?
Absolutely, we have more questions. Yes. So let's go to some live calls. Let's start with Chris Fish. Hi, Chris. Let's get you to unmute. Welcome. What is your question? Oh, we can't hear you. Oh, there you are. Okay.
I find it interesting that sometimes when we have a question that the answer kind of appears. And lately I've been seeing sort of like the grid that she was talking about. I don't necessarily see the tubes that she was talking about, but I also don't know if I'm blocking it like with my rational mind. And I was just wondering if Yeshua has a message on where I can put my focus to open that gift or ability up a little bit more.
Okay. All right. So yes. So let's just talk just for a moment here about your non-physical body. It's in the air. It's shaped like an egg. Above your head, below your feet, it's about 6 feet wide in the middle. The middle is around your waist. And so it's shaped like this, like a rounded out diamond. You can't feel it. You can't see it. You can't sense it. You can't see it. The grid is a non-seeable, non-physical structure. It's like a building. It's like a building, and you're inside the building. You can't see it, so don't try to. It'll confuse.
No, I actually do. I see like grid paper.
Well,
it's like an aura or something that I'm that I haven't seen before, but I have started seeing it.
Yeah, the mind will present an image of what it thinks is being accumulated in the grid. So
Okay.
when information is when data is gathered from grid 1, when it gathers data, that data gets transferred to grid 3, and then grid 3 presents it to you. Sometimes it presents a bad attitude because you've accumulated, I don't like what those people or that person is talking about. And so life manifests another conversation that you don't like. That's law of attraction. But sometimes it manifests a thought or an image in a mind. So the eyes of the human being cannot literally, physically see the grid. But if you have thoughts about what is the grid, what does it look like? What is it used for? Where is it? What are all these sectors about? Which ones are thick and which ones are not even open yet? If you have a lot of those thoughts, then those thoughts might transfer over, and the mind, the human physical mind, human physical eye, might try to give you a picture of it, but you can't actually see it. Now, we say that so that your aspect 2, that's that second intermediary layer, relaxes a little bit because it's highly confused right now in you. And so we describe it just a little bit more. The non-physical part of you is multidimensional reality you are experiencing. You are in a physical reality, but you also have a non-physical dimensional structure that is walking around with you. So it's interdimensional structure. It's not literally in the physical world. It's aligned perfectly. Non-physical dimension, physical dimension, alignment. So it's dimensional reality. Now your mind is listening to that. It's not quite sure what we mean. Try closing your eyes for just a moment. No, we're going to say this again, and we hope that it gets through. Sometimes when the eyes are open, actually all the time, when the eyes are open, the eyes are collecting data without fail every second that the eyes are open, they're collecting data. So are your ears, and so are your hands and feet and everything else. The non-physical grid is the non-physical you. The non-physical you is with you. It is integrated into your physical human body. It was integrated, and it will be separated at the moment of your passing. Those two things are separate and distinct. They are not combined. They are integrated. All right. All right. All right. All right. All right. You can open your eyes now. Now, your sensing ability is pretty good. The image maker is wanting to step forward and do it more often. You need meditation. We would say about 6 to 7 minutes a day, silent meditation. It's going to take a while to clear that one up. What's happening, my dear, is the mind is trying to give you an image. The mind is trying to give you an image. And so the image is not being received. But because your mind is wanting to be an image maker, we know that you have the capacity to have strong clairvoyant sight of images. Now, when we say clairvoyant sight, that's why we say ocularity. Ocularity is conversation that's coming in from your guide, but there's also images and thoughts and memories that come in from the grid. So you've got grid thought and you've got guide thought. Grid thought or non-physical thought. You've got human thought and you've got guided thought. Right now, your body is wanting to create, it wants to create images, but it's not allowing the conversation to come in from the guide to do so. So the image is being created by you. And that's a start. That's not a bad start. It means that the image or the images will show up first. We know that images can be misinterpreted and they can be conveyed as coming from the guide. But in this case, most of your images are not. Now, silent meditation will clean that up, and then you'll have excellent images because your mind wants to do it. If the mind wants to do it, then you get it. That's accumulation. There's enough accumulation in the grid that I like creating images in the mind. I like creating pictures in the mind. So your physical body, your physical life is wanting to create images in the mind. So the image maker, the potential to be a good receiver of information from your guide that is translated into an image is excellent, but it's not happening yet. It's the potential is there, but the mind is in the way. Now we're trying to get the mind to get out of the way, even in this conversation. Listen to the rebroadcast probably once a day for about a week, and then you'll have a much easier time. You'll have less confusion, number one. That'll be a guaranteed. So the rebroadcast, or at least this segment of it, so it's 9:20 East Coast time, so 1 hour and 20 into the video. Go back to your question and then re-listen to it several times. If you listen to the whole thing, you'll get even more. So confusion leads to indecision, and you've got some indecision that's pretty strong in you. And so if you can listen to the rebroadcast with your eyes closed once a day for about a week, you'll feel healthier. You'll blink less. Your concentration will be higher. Your decision-making will be better, but also the inner mind will start listening and creating images from your guide. You won't know you won't know which is which, but we just tell you it will be clean receiving rather than conjured image. We hope that that answer is pleasing to you. Your guide is happy that we were able to clean that one up.
Thank you.
Chris, thank you so much for calling in. Yeah, come back and listen to the replay. We'll have it up a little bit after the call tonight. Thanks for calling in. And blessings to you. Oh my God, all this information. It's like, how do we make sense of it? And then what do we do with it? And then why do we do with it? And then just maybe just being with it without having to do anything.
Right.
And being in alignment, right?
But that is it. That is it. Because the human organ of the brain does not need to make sense of it. You simply need to sit with your eyes closed and let the information resonate in the grid. But with your eyes closed, your guide, your non-physical teacher, comes in and soothes the emotion about learning and about hard things and about learning complicated things. And when the emotions all settle down, all of a sudden, the information makes sense in the grid. And if you keep listening to it, then it makes sense on the top side. So we say it's good to listen to channeled information. And if you do choose any channeled Be careful though, make sure that it is channeled and not conveyance of somebody's human wisdom. But in that way, your mind will open up to the trueness of it. And so, yeah, it's a great thing to add.
Well, thank you so much. All right, let's continue to another question. There's a few more that I want to take, so we'll keep going here. You know, before we get into the next question, y'all, the special offer, April, put it in the chat box one more time, please. I want to make sure everybody has access to it. Y'all check it out. Y'all heard my description before of what I believe is coming through and the feeling that I get and what it's expanding with me and my ability to create. And why do I want an ability to create? Just out of joy, the joy of it, truly. Do I get to serve out of my joy? Absolutely. Can I help not to share? No, I have to share. But really, I understand that there's an excitement, a joy, something that is evolving in me that I get to choose to participate in. And that for me right now is way more than enough. And I want to invite you into that for yourself as well. So I hope you take advantage of this as it's available to you here. Again, the link's in the chat box. It's $147 for the special offer, 2 payment option, the live course, the meditations, the downloads, the field that you get to immerse in, and of course the book. So again, I do hope you take advantage of it. And with that, let's continue. The next call I want to take is Julia. Julia, welcome to the show. And let's get you to mute. And what is your question?
Hi. Thank you so much for taking my call. And I love how relevant the last comment was about being in the presence of the channel and why we're all listening to you, John, and your show, and why you're doing this work. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
My
So
question
what is your
is,
question?
yeah, it's kind of started personal, but evolved a little bit to more general. I'm in pain right now. So the question is, when you have I'm a healthy person, usually. So when I have pain, I'm not sure what to do. Do I focus on it and try to figure it out? Or should I think my body is just, focus on something positive and not pay attention to the pain? So I don't know what to do really. What is the guidance? Yes.
Whatever you think about, you get more of.
Right.
Whatever you think about, you get more of. So now we're talking about grid 1. Whatever information it is collecting and causes you to think about it, you get more of. Because when you think about it, you're still on the subject and it says, oh, I'll get more of that. I'll get more of that. I'll get more of that. So when you think about your question, should I think about the pain and try to figure it out? Categorically, no, don't think about the pain. So let's say your wrist really hurts. You've been typing all day and your wrist really hurts, or your hand hurts. Now you could sit here and you could just rub your hand and you could say, wow, my hand really hurts. I'm not sure why it hurts. It must be because I've been typing. Now on the inner mind says, well, that's not true. It happened while we were typing, but that's not why. I just have frustration about what happened in the last month or so. Because anything that happens from the elbow to the fingertip on the left-hand side is overthinking about things that have happened recently. Now, if it happened on the right-hand side, it would be overly emotional about things that have happened recently. That's from the elbow to the fingertip. So let's just use that as an example. So the inner mind collects confusion just because of the way that you describe things. My hand hurts because I was typing for too long. The grid says the hand hurts and it started while we were typing, but it's not because of that. It's because I've been thinking about what's been happening recently, and accumulation rose to a certain degree that, well, now I get to make it manifest in life. And then it uses life experience. So timing is key. So what do you do when you have something that is painful? Meditate. In the moment, sit and close your eyes. Now we say look up and to the right because there is a cord, there is a tethering mechanism between you and your guide, and that tethering mechanism is right here. It's right here. It's about the collarbone level and goes straight up. So when you look up and to the right, and you do that often, you are asking the grid to pay attention to the cord. And the cord is where healing comes in. Now, what healing comes in is simply soothing the emotions of your recent thoughts. When the emotions are soothed, so let's say you've got some thought and emotion, they're always coupled together, rises all the way to the point of insertion in physical life. So now you've got something. So in meditation, quiet meditation, your guide is reducing the emotion so that it recedes from insertion in physical life, and then you no longer have pain. Now, if it's painful, then do yourself a favor and take something that you would normally take for pain, whatever your favorite pain medication is. And we mean your favorite, because if you take your non-favorite, well, now your belief get in the way. My favorite, I don't get what I want. You see how this works? It's almost fun when you think about it. So I've got two favorite pain medications. I've got the kind that my mother always gave me. And then I have this new kind that was on sale. Both are in my cabinet. Which one do you take? The one your mother gave you, because you got more joy for it. When you have more joy, then you awaken and you waken up to more joy. And when you have more joy, your guide can get more healing frequency in on that topic. So we're not no proponent of physical medical kind of things, but if you can just sit down and relax a little bit and just pay attention to your breathing and watch how that pain dissipates. But if the pain is painful, then take your favorite, because it is your favorite. And then you have joy rising. When you have joy rising, then whatever was frustrating or aggravating or sad or whatever the emotion is that erupted in physical life that caused pain, supplement with joy. So do you find something to think about? Yes, but spend a little bit of time just focusing on your breathing. And you could play with that a little bit. So, close your eyes for just a minute. Now, just breathe normally. Just breathe in, breathe out. Now, when we say focus on your breathing, we mean focus on your breathing. Now, can you do a different breath? This is be playful and add joy, add fun to your grid. And when you add those positive emotions to the grid, then pain is no longer what the grid is focusing on. It's focusing on joy or fun. And now life experience changes. What you have the most of, you get. So let's say breathe in twice, breathe out twice. Not to hyperventilate, but just to see how many you can do. Can I breathe in long? Can I breathe out slow? Can I breathe in loud? Can I breathe out loud? Can I breathe in soft? Can I breathe out soft? It's a distraction technique, but it's such a distraction technique within the chest cavity that the mind says, whoa, something's going on with our breathing, and all focus goes to the breathing. So when you have joy in the variations of breathing, it says, well, that was fun, and it forgets about the pain, and it'll take away moderate to light pain in the moment. But if it's painful, then choose your favorite and then do that. Otherwise, take a nap.
Yeah. The only thing is, I thought it's maybe appendicitis. So you know how it is. It's like you have to go to emergency room, or I guess in from this conversation.
So that would be painful experiences. So painful experiences you have to take care of, because there's an eruption. So when we talk about the grid and law of attraction, it means that data is coming in to such a quantity that it is rolling over into physical life experience. And so it rolls over as a thought, then a behavior, and then physical experience. But it might just show up as blinking. And then it could show up as a headache. And then it could show up as a worse headache, or headaches that happen more frequently. So the first sign is not going to the emergency room. So we say, roll it all the way back and do more self-care. That means slow down. That means find more things to be happy about. That means eat healthier, drink healthier, find less stress. So if you're finding that you're going to the emergency room, then things have accumulated to such a degree that you've got quantity on the inside and it's producing strongly on the outside. That means quantity on the inside has produced all the way to physical life and then some, because the physical experience is stronger. There's depth of it. So that means you need to reel life back in, slow down, smell the roses if you like roses. If you don't like roses, then go bake bread or do something else. Doing something physical with the hands always creates more joy in the grid. So we would say do that. So meditation, don't not do it. But when we say that, we're talking to the grid, don't not do it. And what we mean by that is we're telling the grid vibrationally in this conversation and verbally in this conversation, don't cause that person to not have motivation to meditate. Don't not do it. And so we say those words specifically. Painful experiences are not always painful. So identify what the difference is, and then use some more self-care techniques. Now, right straight down the middle of the body, there is a line drawn. Left-hand side is overthinking. The right-hand side is overly emotional. You've got things that happen on the right-hand side. So you're overly emotional about things. So shake things off a little bit. Try to distract yourself more in the moment when things are upsetting you. And then you'll find that less physical things are happening to that right-hand side.
Beautiful, Julia. Blessings too. And yeah, take care. Self-practice, joy, 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 joy. Find your joy. And you look like you have an abundance of it. It's inviting it more, being aware of the invitation and the breathing. So powerful, so powerful. Thanks for coming on the show.
So much.
You're very welcome. So let's see, Peg, there is one offer. There's not two offers. There's one offer. Everything that you see in the package is included for $147. So there's nothing separate there. And again, I hope you take advantage of it. Y'all, we are running long today on the call, and I want to take so many more questions than I thought that we would. And I trust that what's come through is exactly what's supposed to be there. And I know there's going to be other opportunities to drop in, and so much has been received here. And if you just breathe and just be silent for just a second and allow yourself to receive beyond what the mind thinks that it needs, and be just in the gratitude of your capacity to be with what is right now. Without a doubt, I know that what you were searching is meeting you exactly where you are. Jeshua Collective, thank you so much for being here. Carol, oh my God, amazing. I can't work. I'm going to work privately with Carol. I just have to. I just have to open up.
It's going to be fun. There's a lot of things to come for you.
A lot of it. So super excited about it. And I know Carol's going to be back on the show, so y'all look for that. And with that, y'all, the replay will be out shortly, and you'll have access to that. And thank all of y'all for being on here, your questions, for the frequency that you're holding. And how amazing to be here with all of y'all. Carol, thank you so much for being on the show. It's been
my pleasure.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
All right. I look forward to seeing y'all next time. Bye, y'all.